Have you ever wondered why your depth bothers people? Why is it that as you think more, you feel less connected? Why does your silence, questions, and refusal to conform to shallow expectations cause others, particularly women, to withdraw, criticize, or misread you? Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "People demand freedom of speech in exchange for freedom of thought, which they rarely exercise, but you think." And that is exactly the problem. You are not dangerous because you are aggressive. You are dangerous because you are unwilling to be predictable. In a world where predictability is confused with safety, the intelligent man is a threat simply by existing. Modern relationships are based on comfort, not truth. But the intelligent man has an allergy to illusions. He peels back the masks. He wonders why love feels transactional. He notices the performance in people's eyes, the disconnect between what they say and what they feel. And Kierkegaard warned us that the crowd is untruthful. When a man refuses to be swallowed by the crowd and instead pursues his own path of meaning, solitude, and reflection, he disrupts the entire framework that society relies on to keep people passive and emotionally compliant. Women do not fear intelligent men because they are smart. They fear intelligent men because they cannot control them. Because the intelligent man does not seek approval through flattery. He does not require validation to feel masculine. He does not play the puppet just to get chosen. He does not chase because he recognizes that most chases are based on illusion rather than love. And when he does love, he does so with terrifying clarity, seeking revelation rather than comfort. That level of presence, sharp, discerning, and existentially honest, is uncommon. And what is rare is frequently rejected before it is respected. Kierkegaard wrote extensively on the concept of despair, but not in the way most people understand it. He referred to it as the sickness unto death. A man is unaware that he is separated from his true self. That is what modern culture fears most in men, that they may awaken from the performance and cease to be charming in order to become conscious, because a conscious man cannot be seduced by applause or emotional chaos. A conscious man is no longer motivated by the desire to be liked, and when a man stops needing to be liked, he gains freedom, and when a man achieves freedom, he becomes dangerous. Ask yourself why you feel misunderstood in every room you enter. Why do you feel people are uneasy about your silence? This is because most people, particularly in today's attention-driven world, derive their identity from being seen. But the intelligent man gets his identity from seeing. And seeing deeply makes others uncomfortable, especially if they are attempting to hide. According to Kierkegaard, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Intelligent men live forward, but they are constantly dissecting and understanding the structure of everything, including power, emotion, seduction, and fear. So what happens when a man is no longer drawn to the surface? When he no longer feels enchanted by the games, he becomes unplayable, not because he is cold, but because he is complete. And that wholeness poses a threat to the modern dating economy, in which confusion is currency and emotional unpredictability is mistaken for passion. Kierkegaard was aware of this. He walked away from the only woman he had ever loved, not because he was not concerned, but because he was. Because he understood that living authentically meant rejecting society's expectations, even if it meant losing everything. Listen carefully, men. You may feel more isolated as you become more intelligent. That is not failure. It is the price of awakening. You scare people not because you are cruel, but because you are unprepared. A man who is not conditioned cannot be controlled. That is the most serious threat to any system based on manipulation, including romantic ones. Most people do not look for love. They are looking for usefulness. They want you to fulfill a role: provider, performer, protector, and puppet. However, the intelligent man moves beyond these constraints, and when he does, he becomes invisible to those who remain inside them. Kierkegaard referred to this as the leap of faith, to leave the safety of roles, systems, and superficial expectations and walk alone, to value truth more than comfort, to prefer genuine despair over manufactured bliss. That leap will cost you. It will strip you. However, it will also awaken you, because once you have seen, you cannot unsee it. And if your intelligence is based on self-awareness rather than information, it will transform you from a man seeking validation to one seeking God, meaning, or peace. And this is terrifying to others, and sometimes even to yourself, because what follows is not for the faint of heart. Kierkegaard once said, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily, not to dare is to lose oneself." And most men have already lost themselves not because they lack intelligence, but because they have been trained to apologize for it. To be accepted, you were taught to soften your words, dim your insights, pretend you do not see what is missing, smile when something is fake, laugh when something is shallow, and remain silent when something is wrong. However, acceptance that necessitates the death of your essence is not acceptance. It is assimilation, and the intelligent man who refuses to assimilate becomes a threat, not just to women, but to everyone who benefits from his silence. You scare them not because you are aggressive, but because you are precise. When you speak, your words have weight, and when you look at someone, they feel seen, not flattered. The intelligent man dismantles illusions wherever he goes, even in love, because love for him is not a game, a power play, or a role play of unresolved childhood wounds. Being seen is unbearable for those who still wear masks. For the intelligent man, love is truth, and truth does not always feel good. It feels real, which is why you face resistance, confusion, and even hostility, because your presence threatens the system that rewards performance. You do not beg, chase, or explain yourself 10 times just to be understood. You walk away not because you are angry, but because your soul refuses to be auctioned off to the highest bidder of convenience. That kind of man, calm, grounded, and inwardly sovereign, is more terrifying than any tyrant because he is not reacting. He is choosing. Choosing authentically and consciously is the greatest rebellion left in this world. The reason intelligent men scare modern women is not because they are shallow or malicious, but because we live in a world where most people expect performance rather than presence. The intelligent man cannot fake presence. He brings himself fully or not at all. Kierkegaard's life exemplified this paradox. He loved Regina Olsen, but he left her not because he did not feel, but because he felt too much. This kind of fullness is too raw, too unfiltered, and too demanding of self-awareness. And most people, men and women alike, would rather stay asleep than face their contradictions. He knew his path was solitary, that his inner world was too vast and turbulent to be anchored to anyone else. That is the paradox of the intelligent man. He longs for intimacy, but not at the expense of his integrity. He craves connection, but refuses to perform for it, and he is willing to walk alone rather than dilute his essence just to be desired. That is not arrogance. It is alignment. And it frightens people because deep down, everyone wants to be chosen. But the intelligent man wants to be met, and being met requires the other to be whole, to have gone through their own fires, to have unlearned their own lies, which most people are not ready for, so they call you distant, difficult, and cold. But the truth is, you are not cold. You are clear. You do not hate women. You just do not worship illusions. You do not hate love. You just refuse to call dependency love. You have seen too much to play blind, and that is what scares them. You are not manipulable, predictable, or waiting to be told who you should be. Kierkegaard stated, "The most common form of despair is not being yourself, but you, if you have listened this far, are unique. You want to understand who you are beyond the noise, the roles, and the need for approval. And the journey will cost you popularity. It will cost you comfort. It might even cost you love. However, what you get in return is far more powerful: selfhood, sovereignty, and sanity. You will stop looking for someone to make you whole because you will no longer feel incomplete. And that is when you really become dangerous, brother. Not to others, but to the system that feeds on broken men. Because as we go deeper, everything begins to unravel, especially the lies you have been fed about what it means to be a man in the eyes of the world. Kierkegaard was uninterested in success as society defines it. He wrote, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. This is exactly what has happened to so many men. Quiet disappearance, not physical or loud, but spiritual. Men have lost themselves in an attempt to be palatable, charming, or whatever the room desired, until one day they look in the mirror and see a stranger. But an intelligent man cannot pretend for long. Tension rises within him. He begins to notice that what others consider confidence is frequently arrogance. What they call love is often a form of dependency. That which they call chemistry is frequently trauma. He begins to see while speaking in the native tongue. And once you see, you will suffer. That is the cost of awareness. You suffer because you are no longer fit. You suffer because your questions disrupt parties. Because your clarity offends my comfort. Because your desire for the truth repels those addicted to performance. And this is where the Kierkegaardian paradox comes in. You either betray yourself to gain acceptance from the world, or you betray the world to stay true to yourself. Most men choose the first option. It is easier, it is praised. But this is a slow death. If the intelligent man is brave, he will choose the second option. And with that choice he begins to live. Not comfortably or safely, but honestly. And this honesty pervades everything. How he communicates, dates, works, worships, and walks away. And the world punishes that type of man. Because a man who cannot be seduced by the crowd serves as a mirror for those who remain trapped within it. Let us talk about relationships. Why does a woman feel uncomfortable around an intelligent man? Not because he does not care, but because his priorities are different. He does not chase, he observes. He does not flatter, he listens. He does not respond to every emotional cue the same way a trained dog would. He selects his reactions with surgical precision. This makes him mysterious. And mystery frightens people who require constant emotional reinforcement. The intelligent man is not absent. He appears selectively. And this selectivity feels like rejection to those who are accustomed to being worshipped without effort. But he does not worship. He discerns. Because intelligence combined with emotional clarity yields spiritual X-ray vision. You see through smiles, games, and flattery. That kind of sight frightens anyone still hiding. Kierkegaard frequently discussed the individual's responsibility to become a self. Not a social role, not a performer, not a reflection of other people's expectations, but an individual. Silence, stillness, reflection, and solitude are all required for self-realization. 4 things modern society is allergic to. Because a man who sits in silence for an extended period of time may cease to consume, conform, or apologize for who he is. And, most terrifyingly, he may stop pursuing what was never worthy of him in the first place. You want to scare people? Enter a room without seeking attention. Just observe. Do not over-explain. Speak precisely. Establish boundaries without raising your voice. Be kind without being compliant. Be romantic without becoming dependent. Observe what happens. Watch how people adjust to your presence. Because deep down, everyone knows when a man is grounded. Most people have no idea what to do with him, especially when he is not performing. That is the secret of intelligent men. They do not perform, which is why they are dangerous. Kierkegaard wrote, "Once you label me, you negate me." An intelligent person cannot be labeled. Is he cold? No, he is composed. Is he arrogant? No, he is self-respecting. Is he aloof? No, he is discerning. However, labels are easier to understand than reflection. So the world will reduce him to whatever makes his clarity feel less threatening. But do not let it bother you. Allow it to sharpen you. Allow it to deepen your solitude. Let it strengthen your path. You were not designed to be palatable. You were not meant to beg. You were not meant to be everyone's comfort zone. You were created to be a Kierkegaardian man, aware, truthful, and willing to face the storm alone. If that is what it takes to keep your soul intact, let us venture deeper into the storm. Kierkegaard warned us, the crowd is untruthful. Nonetheless, most men continue to look to the crowd for validation. They assess their worth based on how many hearts they can win, how many smiles they can inspire, and how many people clap when they speak. However, applause is a trap because it teaches you to shape yourself based on what others want, rather than what is true within you. And here's the truth you were not told. The more intelligent you become, the less applause you will get, because you are no longer playing for the audience. You are playing for your soul. And most people do not applaud for that. They stare, question, and shrink. You scare people not because you are cruel, but because you are direct. In a noisy culture, your silence is disturbing. In a world obsessed with stimulation, your stillness is unsettling. In an age of constant availability, refusing to be emotionally summoned on demand feels like rebellion. And it is. It is the rebellion of a man who has reclaimed his mind, heart, and focus. You do not owe anyone a reaction. You do not owe anyone your confusion. The intelligent man does not explain himself to those who intend to misunderstand him. Have you ever noticed how quickly people become uneasy when you stop oversharing? When do you start protecting your thoughts? When your eyes express more than your words? This is the energy of a man who no longer strives to be understood by everyone. And that kind of man frightens not only women, but society as a whole. Because society thrives when men are distracted, addicted, or chasing. However, the intelligent man does not chase. Rather, he chooses. And this decision, the calm deliberation of a man who understands his value, renders him unreadable, unplayable, and untouchable. Kierkegaard referred to it as the single individual, the man who has distinguished himself from the crowd not through arrogance, but by authenticity. He walks alone, not because he is antisocial. He walks alone because most paths are noisy. And he wants the truth. He wants depth. He desires God in whatever form that takes for him. And here's the paradox. The more secure you become in yourself, the more people will attempt to shake you. Not because you are wrong, but because you remind them of what they have abandoned, their depth, integrity, and silence. In love, this is even more profound. Intelligent men do not romanticize chaos. He does not equate unpredictability with passion. He is drawn to alignment rather than excitement. He wants peace, not performance. And when he speaks of love, he means something spiritual, not hormonal. That kind of desire, that sacred, quiet, unwavering presence, can be terrifying for a woman who has only ever known love as drama. It might feel cold, but it isn't. It is steady. And stability is foreign to those who are still addicted to the highs and lows of emotional instability. But do not shrink. You must not soften your message in order to be more acceptable. You should not conceal your intelligence to appear less intimidating. Your role is not to conform to the world's confusion, but to remain grounded in truth. And sometimes truth walks alone. Kierkegaard lived in solitude. He was mocked, ridiculed, and misunderstood. He left the love of his life, not because he did not care, but because he cared too much. Because he understood that his life's mission, his truth, could not coexist with the roles that others expected him to play. That is your challenge now. Will you continue to play roles for comfort? Or will you eventually become the man you were meant to be? Even if it means facing fear, rejection, or isolation. The intelligent man does not want to be liked. He wants to be aligned. And when you are truly aligned, the right people will notice you. Not because you impressed them, but because your silence confirmed something they had forgotten about themselves. So, stop over-explaining. Stop apologizing for your solitude. Stop questioning the strength of your vision. You are not too much. You are too authentic for a world that encourages imitation. And the more authentic you become, the lonelier it may feel. However, you will become more powerful, because that power will not come from beauty, wealth, or image. It will stem from your refusal to abandon yourself. You have come this far. So let us not stop now, because what lies beyond this path of clarity, solitude, and self-mastery is more than just strength. It is freedom. And Kierkegaard understood something that few people ever do, that the price of true freedom is everything that previously made you feel accepted. He wrote, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." Because once a man stops outsourcing his identity, when he no longer seeks permission to be himself, he is confronted with the terrifying realization that there is no map, no approval, and no one to tell him he is on the right track. There is only him and God, with the abyss between them. That is why intelligent men frighten the world, because they enter the abyss with open eyes. They do not hide behind distractions. They do not distract themselves with entertainment. They do not fill their schedules just to avoid silence. They sit inside it. They bear the unease. They have questions that most men would never dare to ask. Without my work, who am I? Without my validation, without someone looking to me for emotional support. Most men avoid those questions. The intelligent man settles in them. And when he meets a woman, he does not intend to possess her. He does not want to change her, control her, or impress her. He wants to see her. And that kind of vision is uncommon. It pierces through vanity, ego, and performance. It necessitates presence. It demands the truth. And truth is a fire that most people avoid because it does not flatter. It does not negotiate. It simply is. And the intelligent man, when grounded in that truth, transforms into a force that cannot be swayed by charm or broken by rejection. He is not cold. He is not harsh. He is simply whole. You want to know why you are avoided, misunderstood, and even villainized. It is because you stopped chasing shadows. And when you stop chasing shadows, those who live in them begin to feel vulnerable. Your presence becomes a judgment. Even when you do not say anything, your standards become offensive. Even if you do not impose them, you have become a mirror. Most people despise unflattering mirrors. But it is not your job to flatter. Your job is to reflect reality, first within yourself and then in the world around you. Kierkegaard talked about the knight of faith, a man who lives inside before he lives out. A man who is driven by a deeper calling that cannot be explained to the general public, rather than logic or emotion. Most people do not notice the knight of faith as he walks the earth. He is not loud. He is not decorated with titles. He may not appear successful by worldly standards, but within him burns a light that cannot be extinguished by trend, rejection, or loneliness. And that is the man you are becoming, the person who is embodying their identity rather than seeking it. Let us be honest, it is not easy. You will lose people. You will question yourself. You will have long nights with silence so loud it sounds like a scream. You will wonder what is wrong with you, because you cannot enjoy the things that used to excite you. You will leave relationships that once felt like home, only to discover they were built on sand. But you will also experience something new, a strange, unfamiliar peace, a stillness in your soul that comes not from being liked, but from being true to yourself. And that peace, alignment, and deep resonant integrity are worth everything you have lost. So no, you are not overly quiet, you are not too deep, you are not overly intense, you are not too much, you are becoming whole. And in a fragmented world, wholeness is terrifying because it cannot be controlled, it cannot be seduced, it cannot be bought. Most importantly, it cannot be ignored. You are not broken, you are becoming. And what you are becoming is exactly what the world desires and fears. A man who cannot be persuaded by lies, not even the ones he would tell himself. Kierkegaard believed that every man, deep within his soul, is called to become something greater than what the world expects, not more in status or fame, but more in reality. What I really lack is a clear understanding of what I am supposed to do, rather than what I need to know. This is the essence of your transformation. It is not about knowing more, it is about becoming more. What are we becoming? A man defined no longer by reactions, expectations, or fleeting desires, but by an unwavering determination to become whole, no matter the cost. By now you have probably felt the weight of this path, the loneliness, the sting of being misunderstood, and the exhaustion of being the only one in the room who sees clearly while others play blind. But I will tell you something most people won't. The pain you experience is sacred. That is loneliness. It is not your enemy. It is your testing ground. Because only after you have learned to walk alone, sit in silence, observe without reacting, and love without losing yourself, will you truly be untouchable. The intelligent man who embodies Kierkegaard's truths is unafraid of rejection because he no longer seeks to be chosen. He chose himself, which changes everything. It changes the way you love. You stop looking for someone to fill your silence and instead seek out someone who values it. It changes the way you work. You stop working for a paycheck and begin creating something that reflects your essence. It alters how you exist because you are no longer motivated by escape, but by alignment. And this alignment makes you uncommon, not because you have surpassed everyone else, but because you have dared to confront what most men never do, the unbearable light of your own potential. Most people run away from it. They settle, they shrink, they conform. But you listened to the whisper. You followed it through the fog, the heartbreak, and the ridicule. And now here you are, not finished, not perfect, but free. And that freedom, however quiet it appears, speaks louder than any performance ever could. You have learned to walk away when something offends your spirit. You have learned to say no, not to harm, but to protect. You have discovered that peace is found not in the company of others, but in the absence of self-betrayal. You have realized that love is more than a transaction. It is a mirror. And that the woman worthy of your depth is not the one who flatters your surface, but rather the one who notices your silence and chooses to stay. And perhaps she will come, or perhaps not. But in either case you will not wait in despair. You will walk your path alone if necessary. Whole either way. Kierkegaard led a life of solitude, but not sorrow. His anguish became scripture, his questions became fiery, and his writings became a guide for men like you. Men who are overly emotional, think deeply, and refuse to perform for approval. So if you are misunderstood, that is good. If you are feared, that is good. If you have been called cold, arrogant, distant, or good, it means you have stopped being digestible, no longer exist on the surface, and have begun to matter. Because at the end of the day, the world does not require more nice guys. It does not need any more charm. It does not need any more puppets. It requires men, true men who know who they are, who walk silently, who love without losing themselves, who speak when it matters and disappear when it does not. Men who are so firmly committed to their truth that nothing, not even love, can persuade them otherwise. And if you are or are becoming that man, you should be aware of this. You will not appeal to everyone, but you will leave an impression on those who do. You will not be intimidated by the masses, but you will be respected by the few. Most importantly, you will respect yourself in the quiet moments, in the difficult decisions, in the long nights when you choose peace over performance, truth over approval, solitude over superficial comfort. If this message spoke to your soul, do not let it stop here. I like this video. Share it with someone who is still in the fog. Subscribe for more truths you will never learn in school. And if you want to help this mission, if you believe men need to hear this now more than ever, please click the link in the description to support the channel. Your voice matters. Your mental state is important.